Hail and well met friends, and welcome to the final episode of the Alioth expedition. We've been in this system for nearly a month, and we have learned much. Our next stop is Avathar. We were late with the breaking burn, because I was doing some calculations and checking on some other things, so we're going to overshoot, and I think it's going to be severe. I originally wanted to name this planet Niflheim, after the cold hell of Norse mythology. But a quick glance at the planet's stats tells us this would be wholly inappropriate. I think the climate is going to be more like that of most Seleniac worlds. Is Seleniac a word? It sounds like a mental illness, or maybe a food allergy. Let's go with Selenic. That sounds much better. Anyway, this place will be scorching in the day, freezing at night, and thus no place for everyday human life. So I decided instead, in keeping with the Tolkienian mythology of our last stop, to name it after the great wasteland south of Valinor where Melkor first struck an alliance with the great spider Ungoliant. Spoiler alert, that didn't work out so well for Ungoliant. You have to be careful when doing lateral corrections on approach, as it takes energy away from the breaking burn and increases the chances of an overshoot. You can't do it before the breaking burn if it's a long-distance trip, as you can't know with enough precision where your trajectory is relative to the target world. And you can't just not do it. So timing such course corrections is a challenging exercise in judgment. Oops, we're not going to make it. The autopilot can correct this, so it's more of a minor embarrassment than an actual problem, at least up to a point. But it's still something we would prefer to avoid. Okay, yeah, that was a pretty severe screw-up. Lucky for us, the performance of most space engine ships is absolute madness. I mean, not only is accelerating 500 million tons of metal and other materials at 30 times the force of Earth gravity well beyond humanity's present technological capability, but subjecting a human to that acceleration would be equivalent to dropping this ship on him. But since the Maxwell is capable of reaching another galaxy well within a human lifetime, we can assume that inertial dampeners exist in this timeline, very handy for making sure our crew isn't turned into space sludge. Lateral correction. Hopefully we timed this one better. It's going to be close, but I think we've got it this time. It's also going to be a nearly polar orbit, which is not that great for terrain mapping. So we'll need to correct that when we have the opportunity. And that's it, we're here. Avathar is about the same size and mass as Mercury. Aside from being half again as massive as Osiris, and possessing a thin haze of exotic gases that doesn't quite constitute an atmosphere, Avathar doesn't seem that different from Osiris, Caranthir, or any of the other major moons we've seen thus far. Still, we have seen that despite their near-identical appearance, these worlds can have some unique features when viewed close up. So they are still worth a look, and I'd like at least cursory glances at all of them when we return, many months from now. That seems to be the minimum possible inclination. I would have preferred a perfectly equatorial orbit, but this will do. Look at those sulfur yellow plains. We still don't know for sure if it is sulfur. Although this is a common feature in this system, it is strangely beautiful. There have been a lot of amazing sights on this journey. But surely this one has to top them all. Imagine being a newlywed on your honeymoon, and getting this as part of your tour package. Perhaps we found a use for this planet. Let's head over there, and see what we can see. No repeat of the close call between Losgar and Caranthir. Although we've already broken orbit with Avathar, we're going to wait until Luthian is well clear of the horizon before igniting our engines. Luthian is just over 1/10 of the distance from Avathar that our moon is from Earth. Add to that its size, and you can see why this is such a stunning sight. Offset looks good. Inclination looks okay. It's not what I would prefer, but we can work with it. I like that. Blue suns are awesome. You've got to be kidding me. Those wrinkly structures look like dry riverbeds. That's conclusive evidence that there was once liquid water here, and therefore an atmosphere. Maybe even life. But that's very mysterious. For bodies this small to have enough gravity to retain water and an atmosphere, they would have to be very dense, which Avathar and Luthian are not. I don't have a theory to account for this that wouldn't sound completely ridiculous, much less any evidence to back one up. This side of the moon is very smooth, almost completely undisturbed by impacts. In the absence of previous evidence, I would compare them to our own lunar Maria, as I've done frequently at other worlds. But this looks more eroded. Yet again, evidence of an oceanic past, on a world far too small to have had such a thing. And that almost looks like a sulfur lake. It may not be a novel sight anymore, but sunrises at Alioth are always cool looking. Some final thoughts on the Alioth system as we head for home. What happened here? My current theory is that there were at least two major cataclysms, one of which was recent. The worlds in the inner system are more heavily cratered than the moons of Duat. Planetary bombardments in the early formation of a solar system are pretty common. But at Duat, my hypothesis is that a rogue planetoid or even a small black hole passed through the system, causing two of the planet's moons to collide. This would form the rings and send debris hurtling into the other moons. If it was a black hole, or if the black hole was a separate event, it may well have disrupted Duat's magnetic field, exposing it to solar radiation which would strip it of its oceans. Something similar is believed to have happened on Mars, although black holes have nothing to do with that theory. It's also possible that a former moon passed inside the Roche limit and broke apart, as is believed to have happened at Saturn. But that would make the recent-looking impacts on Thoth a separate event, as Roche limit breakups tend to be more gradual. As for the event that knocked Seabright onto its side, there are plenty of precedents based on what happened at Uranus. It could be that the same planetoid, if that's what it was, that destroyed two or more of Duat's moons, collided with Seabright. This would have to have happened a long time ago, as that planet had time to form or reform oceans and continents. Loscar's off-kilter axis is far less severe than that of Seabright. If we stay within Occam's razor, it's logical to suppose that that planet simply formed that way. But of all the wonders we've seen here, the apparent dry river beds on Avathar's moon Luthian are perhaps the most shocking. This implies that the second great violent event may indeed have been a coronal mass ejection, a massive solar flare which blew off the atmospheres and any liquid water of the two innermost planets, leaving only a thin remnant of gas around Avathar. Overall, this system seems to have had a violent past, possibly more violent than our own. Home sweet home. Dorothy wasn't kidding. It's time to retrieve the crew. They'll take some well-deserved rest as AWS Corporation begins planning for the Maxwell's mission to the Pleiades. There's a planet there which might merit a much closer look than we gave the worlds of Alioth, and those planets themselves are going to be surveyed much more thoroughly, though not on this next trip. Enjoy the show as we greet the heroes of the Maxwell, humanity's first ambassadors to an alien sun, in orbit above their home. I hope you have enjoyed this series. I won't pester you for likes and subscribes like many other channels do, though they are of course welcome, and comments and feedback even more so. Okay, so my landing was a tad off target. It happens. Space Engine is a space game, and its atmospheric physics, while passable, are not as good as MSX or flight gear. We'll have a carrier plane come pick us up from whatever the hell field in Canada we landed in, and take us back to El Tercero. Thank you for joining me on this adventure, and I hope you'll come back to watch our voyage to the Seven Sisters, and some other star systems with worlds that have more discoveries awaiting humanity.